Hey guys, we just landed here in Seattle, Washington, our beautiful Northpoint, Washington facility. First of all, we just want to say thanks for joining us on this journey. Anything you want to say real quick, Big John?
Appreciate the support, and we got a lot of great episodes coming your way, so be sure to check them out, show us some love on all the different media platforms, YouTube, podcasts, all that good stuff.
Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes.
Absolutely.
Next few episodes are going to be showcasing our amazing Northpoint, Washington staff, as well as some of the alumni that have graduated from this facility, as well as Northpoint, Idaho, that live in the Washington State area.
Yeah, it's going to be a real good time,
guys. Welcome to No Way But North, where we talk about the miracles of recovery and the tools used to achieve them. My name is Cooper Lyons. My clean date is November 27th, 2010. I said miracles. Weird. Did you hear that?
I did.
Miracles. How you doing, dude? How you feeling? You still enjoying being out here in Seattle?
Yeah.
Yeah?
No
Even with the gloomy weather?
I mean...
Were you about to say no kidding or no kids?
No kids. Like, I got no kids, bro. I'm up here hanging out, get to kick it with Alex over there, hear some good stories,
There has been some good stories.
There has been some really good stories.
I know. I'm really stoked we got Alejandro. I was stoked we got a Northpoint, Washington alumni and Heidi. That was awesome.
Yep, and we're just,
Cool.
just hanging out.
All right. Anything you want to say before we introduce this pretty badass guest over here?
Oh, I mean, it'll come. You know me.
It's too cocky. All right, guys, before we do introduce that badass guest, please make sure you hit that like button, that subscribe button, that share button. Tell one person that you think would get value out of this podcast, whether there's somebody that's struggling with addiction, a family member that has a family member struggling with addiction, or someone that's maybe thinking about getting into the field of addiction treatment. It helps us really share this message of recovery, share the tools that we talk about. It just really helps us out, and we really want to build a community around this show, and we really appreciate all the help.
We should have an addiction word counter in like the bottom, like right hand corner.
How many times do you say addiction?
Yeah.
How many times do you think we say addiction?
At least 150 times.
You think we say addiction 150 times?
I think we say addiction a whole lot.
Before we get even more off track. Guys, we're here with Brandon. Brandon J. is an incredibly active member in the 12-step community. He's even been involved in legislation, how would you say it, activism? Or pushing it, legislation?
Like advocating.
Advocating, perfect. That's what it is.
Activision? This is not a video game company.
Activating.
Oh.
But he's been involved in that in this local Seattle area. It's been really great. He's pushed a lot of stuff that's gone on, and he's started helping with the recovery game at the Mariners game last month. He even caught the first pitch at that game. How many people showed up to that, by the way?
1,750.
Nice. And that was for all people in recovery, right?
Yep.
That's awesome. So guys, in today's quote that Brandon brought with us is, "We are all at our most powerful when we no longer need to be powerful." Eric Micha. Hope I'm saying that right. John, I got you first.
Why me first?
Because I never have.
Oh, thanks. Go ahead.
He makes me read it twice every time. "We are all at our most powerful when we no longer need to be powerful." Eric Micha. That was weird reading it back to back like that. You're not going first anymore.
I think we talk about this idea of surrendering, within community meetings and 12-step. Even at Northpoint, we talk about this idea of surrendering. And I think control plays such a huge part of somebody's addiction and somebody's unhealthy behaviors. We try to control all these different aspects. And when we finally let go and we stop trying to control, that's when, you see these great miracles happen. You see these great things happen. And then that's what I think Eric was trying to say.
I like how you just talked to him like he was in the room.
Yeah. Me and Eric, we're...
Brandon, what about you?
For me, yes, it was all about this surrender. I didn't know how to do this, and I thought I had to be almighty and powerful to get through the things that were going on in my life. And when I let go of it and I just let life be life, those influences went away, and I started chipping off these goals that I was doing and these accomplishments, and all of a sudden, I realized I was getting more done when I stopped fighting what was going on than when I was actively fighting it.
Yeah.
And
You just
so
allow
yeah,
it.
I heard that quote and I just loved it.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. It's going into my bank for sure. So you guys kind of honestly beat me to, to what I was gonna say. So, but what I'm also thinking of is like, that guy that walks in the room and he acts so cocky because he needs you to know he's confident, and you just know that he's insecure because of the way that he's trying to pretend to be confident.
You say that about me all the time, Cooper.
You're an insecure guy, John.
Fair enough.
It just got really real. I'm sorry.
Damn.
No, but so I'm thinking about, because when I think about you, Brandon, like I think about the Northpoint people that have long-term sobriety and are really doing the deal. So like you're super active, right? And I know you practice principles of recovery and you do all these things on a regular basis, but you're not super loud about it. Like you don't need everybody in the room to know, and you just kind of practice, you just do it. You don't need everybody to know how strong you are in your recovery. You just are, and you live your life, and you practice principles on a daily basis. And for me, that's what recovery is about. Like meetings are great, having the service commitments are great, going to all the sober communities, all of that is great in early and long-term recovery. But for me, long-term recovery is really about like, yeah, I'm Cooper. I have a job and I enjoy my life and I'm relaxed and like I'm not fighting life on life's terms all the time, like you were talking about. So that's kind of what I thought of when I was hearing that quote. So, man, I want to thank you for being here on a Saturday. We really appreciate you taking time out of your day to sit down and put a microphone in your face and talk with us for a bit. So let's just kind of get into what was your childhood like? How was growing up? What was your relationship with your parents, friends, school, all that kind of stuff?
All right, so my name is Brandon. I'm an addict.
What's your clean date?
My clean date is August 25th, 2016.
Nice.
Which puts me at like 3 years, 1 month, and I think 13 days.
Nice. Yeah, I was just going to say happy birthday. Happy late birthday.
Thank you. I never thought I would get this much clean time, right? First off, like, that's where I kind of want to start, right? Like, I always try to look at things like, I just don't have to use today, right? And like, that's how I've stacked up my days one by one, what was little by little, hour by hour. Like, all I had to do was get through the next 5 minutes or the next hour, and then pretty soon it was that day. Like, I just don't have to use today. No matter how bad I want to, and no matter how bad I'm hurting, or I think I can't deal with life, I just don't have to use right now. Maybe tomorrow, right? Like, I don't know what the rest of my life holds for me, and I try not to look at, like, that I'll never use drugs or alcohol again, because I don't know that. But what I know is today I don't have to, that I've developed some tools. So I was born and raised in Puyallup, Washington, not small town, but not big, giant town. I lived with my mom, and I have a biological father that my mom and her were dating, and he was still in active addiction. And she decided not to put him on the birth certificate because he was in active addiction. And they weren't married, and she didn't know where their lives were going, and she didn't want to have that battle.
Yeah.
So, but I had a relationship with my dad for a while. He's not really my dad. He's my biological father. Yeah. I'll get to that. But so I would see my biological dad up until about like the 7th grade, and we would hang out and do all these things, but there was a lot of times where he wouldn't show up, right? Like he just wasn't there. Or like I would walk into the room and I would see him hide stuff. Like I remember, like I visibly remember now walking in and seeing him with a needle in his arm and letting the rubber band go, right? Like those are things that I remember. Like I remember hitchhiking with my dad because we didn't have transportation. Like I thought that was okay and that was normal. And what I came to find out was that was not. And,
that's what I was going to say. Is did you realize like what was going on in his life when that was going on, or was it just like, oh no, that's just like what adults do?
I don't think I had any understanding of it. Like it was just what I was raised around, and that's all I knew. When my mother found out, she cut off all contact, and then he didn't want to get clean.
Yeah.
Right. Like he actively chose that. And I still don't talk to him to this day. It's something I'm still working through. Right. Like I think that was a huge trauma in my life.
Totally.
And so like I didn't understand why this person wasn't around in my life anymore. So that was like my first level of abandonment, right? Like when I was in second grade. But throughout all this, like I did have a stepdad. Like my mom remarried, and I did have this role model in my life, and things were really good for a while.
And you had a good relationship with him.
I had a great relationship. From what I know of a parental relationship at the time. I struggled a lot. I'm a person who stutters, and I think that's a huge part of my story. And I got a lot of abuse from my family and my friends, like mostly from my stepdad, right? Like I felt the most pressure from him on that I needed to speak up. Like, why can't I speak normal? Like, just calm down. Like I didn't know how to calm down. Like obviously if I knew how to calm my anxiety and just speak normally, like I would do that. But I don't know that, and just getting irritated with me is not going to help me. It just compounded it and made it worse.
You talked about that a lot since you've kind of gotten into advocation and all that kind of stuff. But I never knew that. So it sounds like you've done a lot of work on that, because I never noticed ever that I still don't. Like I don't hear it in your voice. So it sounds like you've done a lot of work on that also. Yeah,
I have done a lot of work. I think I'll get to that like later in my story. Like I had a huge turning point, and I'll get to there.
Okay.
But so my parents divorced when I was in 7th grade, and I think that's when
your stepdad and your mom. Okay.
And like that's when I started looking for different friends to hang out with. Like here I was abandoned again. Like I felt like, oh, it's me again, right? Like here's this abandonment, and like all these childhood traumas just keep stacking up, and stacking up, right? Like there's no wonder that I reached out for this outside coping mechanism of drugs and alcohol. Like I mean, all the things were stacked against me, and I didn't have the tools to deal with life.
Yeah, well, you had the genetic predisposition. You had the childhood traumas. You had that environment that was not supportive or conducive for, instilling confidence or self-esteem. So yeah, I think you pretty much had the odds stacked against you there. I would be blown away if you didn't, have any story of addiction with that kind of upbringing. Or those chances, those things stacked up against you. So, so started 7th grade, started looking for other things outside yourself. Right? So just not feeling like yourself in your own skin, that the kind of not normal, but the usual stuff that we hear, or was there more to it?
Well, I think it started with like the friends that I chose weren't necessarily friends, right? Like they were people that were just there with me, and like they had something I wanted, so I would use them.
And vice versa, probably.
And I didn't have very good friendships. Like, let's say that, right? Like all through grade school, like the friendships I had were very toxic. I was bullied, and I wasn't beaten or anything, right? But I was bullied by a lot of my peers. And so like even if someone wanted to hang out with me, like I was okay with them being a cruel piece of shit to me, just because they wanted to hang around me. And so I would accept that and tolerate that. And so those were the kind of people that I hung around. And then when my parents got divorced, I started hanging out with the kids that were smoking and not doing the extracurricular activities anymore. And so I pretty soon
And you did
dropped.
do a lot of sports and stuff.
I did do sports, and then I dropped all of those, and I started hanging out with other people, and I started getting high, and that's where it went. And for a while, like that worked. Like
you wouldn't have kept doing them if it didn't work.
Right? Like it worked for a while. Like I ended up in treatment at 16, or no, I was 15. I think I had my 16th birthday in treatment, actually. And
so that's a pretty sweet 16.
Right, it was fucking awesome. And I think at that time in my life, like all treatment did for me was teach me that, oh my God, there's way better drugs out here. Because
is something that happens,
really wasn't
right?
ready. Like, I was like, oh my God, there's all these drugs I haven't tried. Let me just get through this year of people pleasing and making my family fooled and fooling my counselors. And let me get a year of clean MUAs, and so I can go back out and do these things, because there's all these things people talked about that sounded so fucking cool. Like, you want to numb out all these feelings? Well, like, I'm on board with that. Like,
Yeah.
I don't like the world, and I feel like a square peg trying to fit into a circle hole, and I don't belong. And so if there's something that can make that easier for me, like, I'm on board.
Yeah.
And so, like,
So that's what you
that's
did,
where
right?
I
Yeah.
was, right? Like, that's what I did. And, like, I'm a people pleaser. Like, I want to make you happy, no matter what.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. So you went through that year, did outpatient treatment.
Yeah. Well, I did inpatient and then outpatient.
Okay. So you did the whole deal. Sounds
Yeah.
like you were probably life probably was pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
For that
Graduated, didn't fail a single MUA, had everyone fooled, and meanwhile using the whole time through it.
Oh,
Right?
like, that's
I
actually
would,
pretty impressive to get go full year without getting
yeah,
a
like, I
MUA.
didn't fail a single MUA. Like, that's, I call that the LSD time. Like, that was the acid time. Like, let me get as
Moments of,
fucked
like-
up as I can and take a lot of acid. Like, that's where I was. Like, I don't want to be in this world.
Yeah.
So, like, I would float off.
Yeah. Literally, probably. Yeah.
Like, I was always the person at the party who had to take the most.
So I want to get back to that, but what was your first drug use or drink like? Because I'm always interested, because there's always this theme that we hear with our guests for their first use, but I'm curious what your first use is like, and then let's jump back to your relapse after. No, I guess not relapse, but
What was my first use? Oh, God. I remember the first time that I, like, actually got high on some marijuana, right? Like, I was at a party with some people that I don't normally associate with, and, like, everyone was doing it, and, like, I felt like I had this peer pressure, like, I got to do this to fit in.
Yeah.
And they're all, I'm doing it. And so I get stoned, and like, I come home from this party, and I walk in the door, and I open the door, and I try to make small talk with my mom, like I'm normal, and like I'm in a normal state of mind. And
Make it not look like I'm suspicious.
2
but, like,
seconds
totally.
into the door opening, she looks at me and just goes, "Go to your fucking room, because I know you're stoned right now." And like, I was just like, how? Like, I thought I had the world fooled.
Yeah.
What do you mean? Like, I'm not stoned. Like, yes, you are. And like, she labeled off all the things, right? And like, your red eyes and all this stuff, and glossy. And like, there's no way you're not.
It's always funny, like, kids that smoke weed, like, they have, like, think that they cannot get. I was the same way.
Yeah.
Like,
same, yeah.
I'd like, you had the whole ritual. You had the Visine, and then you had like the cologne or like the Axe spray, and all you do is look like a fucking stoner with like Visine in your eyes and like mask bad Axe spray with marijuana like coming off of it. Like, I smell people now that like will come into treatment and they did the same thing. I'm like, bro, like, I can tell you just got high as a kite before you came in here. And they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. Then you do the whole smell test on yourself, like, yeah, I'm good. I got it. And then you get caught. You're like, I don't know, I got caught.
Oh
yeah,
my god.
that was my life of using as a teenager.
Just
like, I was always caught.
Constantly. Yeah.
Always
Same.
caught.
Same.
Like, it did not matter.
I was the worst drug addict ever.
Yeah.
Couldn't hide shit. Okay, so going through that year of treatment, you're using the whole time, and then I'm assuming you just descended into addiction. What happened after that? Like, after the year of treatment?
After that, like, because of my addiction and going to treatment, I was in an alternative school, right? And so I technically only had to go like 3 days a week as long as I did my work, and only for like a couple hours a day. But like, I never really did my work, so I had to go 5 days a week, and I had massive homework, and like, I hated it. So I ended up finding a job, and I started working, right? And I was like, well, fuck going to school. Like, I'm done with this shit.
Yeah.
And then like, I had this plan that like, I wanted to go into the military.
Yep.
And I had to get my GED before I could go into the military. And so in order for me to take my GED test, I had to write an essay to the school board to let me take my GED test because my graduating class had not graduated yet.
Oh, okay.
But like, I just wanted to go out into the workforce. Like, I was fucking done with school.
Yeah.
Like, I'm done with you. Like, you are not what I want. And
I'm not learning anything. This is
yeah.
for me. Yeah.
And so I wrote a 10-page essay to the school board on like what my life plan was and where I wanted to be, and this is where I was going. Like, I was all signed up to go into the military. Like, I just hadn't signed on the dotted line yet.
Yeah.
So they let me take my GED test. They said, okay, like, absolutely fine. I took my GED test, and then like I was waiting until my 18th birthday to go into the military. Well, then I got this job in the masonry field. And how it happened was I had a neighborhood friend that I always sold weed to.
Yeah.
Right? And her dad had just started this masonry company.
Okay.
And like I had just went to her house and like went around back and like slid her some weed, you know, and like taken the money. And then like he calls me and I'm like, oh fuck, she got caught again. God damn it. And he's like, you need to come over here and talk to me. And I'm like, oh dude, I'm busted. Like, it's over. So I go over there and talk to him, and he just asked me how I liked this crap job I had, like mowing lawns. Like, I hated it.
Yeah.
But it was just a job, and like he offered me a career. And I was like, oh God, do you know what I just like I just gave your daughter drugs, and like he offered me this career, and that's where I worked for, like, it's actually the company that I work for today still.
Wow.
So it's been 20 years of me being there. Like, I've had some off and on time, obviously, because of my addiction and my choices that I've made, but I've been in the union ever since. And
cool.
So, yeah.
That's worked out for you.
It's worked out. Like, I guess the unions in construction, like, they're pretty lenient on drug use. Like, for the most part, like, it's so hard to find people that can pass the UA. Like, even now. Like, they're pretty much like, can you pass? Like, no, really. Like, can you pass? Because I'll just put you on another job. Like, that's the way it goes.
That's crazy. Okay, so you get that job. You're in the labor union. How does your addiction start progressing? Like, does it just kind of stay the same and level out?
Oh, no. It got progressively bad really quick, right? Like,
Was it because you started making more money?
I'm living on my own. I have no consequences at home. And I'm making like 3 or 4 times all the money, or 3 or 4 times more money than all of my peers that I'm associating with at this time.
Because like you're in the labor union.
Yeah, like I'm making a crap ton of money. Like I'm getting hotels every weekend.
And you have like
because like I don't even want to party at
kids,
my
no
house because we're just fucking raging. You know?
Yeah.
And like I'm taking people out to dinners that are just outrageously expensive. Because like I'm looking for that validation from my peers. Like, I gotta have this big party. Like,
Like,
I
if
gotta
I
buy all
do
the
this, then
views.
people are gonna be around
Yeah,
me.
like people are gonna love me, and like they're not gonna reject me.
Yeah.
And like I realize all this now, but I didn't at the time.
yeah.
So funny, it comes back to that whole idea of like the family roles, right? Like, you have this like growing up, and like you're not validated within like my relationship with my father, and then like I have this, you know, kind of offbeat relationship with my stepdad because of you know, the stuttering, and then like it's like I'm just, and then like the bullying and like all that stuff, and like just like I'm gonna throw this money around and I'm gonna look like a good time, then people are going to want to be around.
Yeah,
All the
exactly.
time, without a doubt. Like, fuck that. I got the money now. Everybody else, like, you can come kick it with me.
Yeah.
And so like that's where I was, right? But then my addiction got bad.
Yeah.
Right? Like I started buying pills.
Yep.
And like that got really bad really quick, and that was
And
in like
expensive, too.
2003 or something, right?
Yeah,
Like,
and so-
pills were pretty cheap then, and like everybody had them, or well, at least I thought they
It
were.
wasn't as regulated back then.
Yeah, it was not nearly as
it was-
unregulated
The
back then.
opioid epidemic was not a thing.
Like it wasn't even at its peak then.
No.
Like it was at
Yeah.
at its infancy
Yeah.
of getting bad.
I mean, you gotta look at it, like, when you started coming out, like, with, like, hydrocodones and, like, all these things.
Yeah.
Like, hydrocodone was just coming out at that time, and it was supposed to be, like, this wonder drug.
Yeah.
Like, Xanax, same thing. It's, like, supposed to be, like, the new revolutionary, like, opiate that's supposed to just help out.
Mm-hmm.
And people were just knocking them down quick.
Yeah, and doctors were just throwing them out like candy.
You get like a 90-day prescription. Like you get those big old bottles. I remember, like we had them in our house.
Yeah, I used to steal those from my friend's grandma.
Yeah,
she had like 3 of those giant pill bottles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's sad, right? Like that's how most kids start their first using is from their parents or another family member's medicine cabinet.
Yeah.
And like mine started from my doctor, unfortunately, when I found opiates. Like I got hurt at work and they were like, "Oh, we'll take these. Like you'll feel better." And I did.
I felt way better than you thought I was going to feel.
I felt great. Like I'm going to keep coming back and you're going to keep giving me more. This is awesome.
And they did back then.
Yeah. Like no contracts, no nothing. Like, and so like I got really strung out on pills, and like that's when OxyContin came out, and then people told me, well, just here's another way to do it. And I was like all on board with that. And then like things were getting out of control, right? Like I'm living with my now wife and like her child, and like I can't go a day without using at all. So
because you start going into withdrawals.
Oh yeah,
you just
like
can't
I
do
can't at all, and like I know I have a problem. So these pills are my problem. So I'm gonna stop taking those, and like I'm gonna go back to cocaine now because this sounds better. So like I just switch one drug for another, like and like that's been my pattern my whole life, right? Like this drug's my problem right now, so I'm gonna switch to another one, and I wouldn't make that switch until I could find a connection to get a sustained hookup, right? Like I needed to know that I could continue getting that drug, or I didn't want to do it because I want to continue to do it and keep that feeling going.
That's a lot of forethought for how
Right?
deep.
I mean, but you gotta
like
have
that's
that
where
kind
it
of
was for
forethought.
me.
Yeah, I was not like, oh, I need to. Like I was just like, I'd save enough for the next morning, and like that was it for me.
I think like
that's as
addicts are
far
some of
in
the most
future as I
tactful
thought.
like
Oh, yeah.
individuals ever. Like I've had like patients break down their daily like use,
And you're just like,
and I'm like, fuck, like I can barely like figure out what I'm about to do at 2:00 in the afternoon. Like let alone plan like every 45 minutes of my day from 6:00 in the morning until 11:30 at night. Where I'm gonna go, how I'm gonna get the money, how I'm gonna have so much, like how I can like make the heroin last for a certain amount of times. Like I remember one day I was just listening and I was like dumbfounded. I'm like, that's a lot of effort.
Yeah.
And they're amazing at it.
oh, that's great. And then if you could, God, if we could just harness the power.
10%. I would just ask them, take 10% of your addiction, put it into your recovery. You're already winning.
Oh,
if we could do,
sure.
100, we'd all be multimillionaire, running multimillionaire
Right.
companies. It's fucking insane. Okay, so switching drugs out. What is it? Tell me, like, what bottoms stand out?
Oh, I can definitely tell you on this one, right? Like, I had just switched to cocaine, right?
Yeah.
And I'm working in the laborers union. Like, I've been there for 5 years. Like, I'm vested. Like, my pension can't go anywhere. And, like, I'm hanging around with probably the biggest enabler at the time that I had in my life because he had an inheritance. And, like, for some reason, he wanted to hang around with me. And we got to do all these fun, cool things. Like I raced RC cars, like on a professional level, and got to like go all around the Northwest. And like
Those
I was
fast, like
sponsored
those
by
fast ones.
Yeah, like
oh,
the
those are
gas
so
ones.
cool.
Oh yeah, like it was awesome, but it was fucking expensive. Yeah. Well, but I had a friend with this money. Well, but he's strung out too.
So you guys are just doing it together.
So yeah, we're just going. Like, I mean, we're going. Like, not sleeping at all at these events. Like, we're going on, like, 3-day trips and, like, getting 2 hours of sleep, maybe.
Yep.
And, so he's starting to see his money dwindle down. And, like, he's got a huge house. And he's like, hey, like, I'm going to start growing weed. And I'm like, all right, like, this is cool. All right. So, like, I help him kind of get it going, right? Yeah. And then he convinces me that, like, I should just quit my job and go and work for him, and he'll pay me, like, at least what I'm making right now until we get going on it and get it up and going. And I'm like, oh, this is fucking awesome. Like, I don't have to work construction anymore, and, like I don't even like weed anymore at this point. Like, fuck that. Like, I found opiates, and that's my jam.
Yeah.
And, so I convinced my family, and her family that this is okay. Like, this is what I'm doing. Like, I'm going to make enough
Move
money.
this house and
Yeah.
grow
and, like,
weed.
we fucking blow it up to the max, too, right?
Oh,
like,
I'm sure you guys. Yeah.
And within 2 years, like, DEA is kicking down our door, and, like, that was one of those bottoms right there.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, I'm going to fucking jail.
Going to federal prison.
Yeah, like, it was federal prison time. Like, I had just enough money to pay for a lawyer, and that was it. And, like, I ended up beating it on some fucking bullshit, but...
Like, loophole.
Yeah, like, loophole shit, but it took, like, every dime I had, right?
All that money and all that time and energy you put in, and you're like,
Yeah, I had nothing to show for it, but I got to keep my wife and I got to keep my kids, and they didn't have to see me get arrested, right? Like, it happened at this other location, like, it happened. Okay, like, I don't have to look over my shoulder anymore. Like, I can finally take a deep breath, and then, like, I think my higher power was there, because I get home from all that, like, after being arrested and my money's gone. I pay for my lawyer, and I get home and I open up my mail and I get an $8,000 check from the IRS, because I haven't been working the last couple of years. So any money that I paid in taxes, like, I just get it all back. Plus I get a child credit because I'm scamming the system at this point.
Yeah.
And so, like, I get this big check and I'm like, oh, sweet.
I love it though. Like, it's just funny, like how shit works out. Like, here's like this gleaming moment where you're like, I beat federal charges.
Right.
Like, I beat federal charges.
I have
Didn't
no
lose.
money.
Didn't lose a lot.
Yeah.
Just lost a little money, and then boom, I come home. I got 8,000 grand. Like, let's go. I got eight.
Yeah.
I got $8,000. Let's go. Fuck it. Oh, who cares? Let's go.
Yeah.
Jesus.
So, needless to say, that did not last. Right,
Yeah,
like, I've
imagine
conned
that.
my way into fucking spending all of that. I don't care about my family. I don't care about that we need dinner or food or rent. Like, we're living with her sister-in-law, and I'm not paying for shit, and I don't care, and I've dwindled all the money away.
Yep.
Well, then I found this world of harm reduction, which is like the in-between, right? Like,
Yeah.
of recovery to
Still kind
using.
of there, but
right?
like,
Yep.
So I found this, and I was like, oh my God, this is fucking awesome. Like, I can go in and get my drugs for way cheaper than what I'm spending on the street right now. And they will pump me full of drugs. And for a long time, like, that was fucking good. Like, I was, like, happy with it. Like, okay, finally, like, my drug dealer's on my time.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'm not waiting for him. Like,
how
all
long
I
were
have
you
to
on
do is...
harm reduction.
All I have to do is go there every day for a certain time, like, between their hours, and they will give me whatever I want.
Yeah.
So I spent like 8 years there, I think.
Wow.
Maybe it was 6. Like, I don't even
Which
know.
is so funny because like when Matt treatment therapy's harm reduction, it was like the idea of that is just like Vivitrol. It's only supposed to be maintained for a year.
Yeah.
But they just let it run rampant.
But like,
They make
making
money.
money.
They make bank off that.
but like, I needed that.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I know now from doing some of the work that I've done, the things that I gained because of that, right?
Yeah.
Like, I became employable. I got stable.
Yeah.
I lost all the connections that I had from before from using because I didn't need them anymore.
'Cause you had a
And
professional
they were
connection.
fucking shady and didn't show up on time and cost me way more money. So I don't need those people anymore. But I got employable. I kept a needle out of my arm. I got my family back, and I got some trust.
Good.
And like, that was enough for quite a while, right? Like, that's where I needed to be.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
so,
no,
yeah.
and yeah, I totally agree that it has its place, but
Yeah, I
8
definitely
years, right? That's just not.
I definitely think like it was developed and like there's a lot of good that harm reduction does.
Totally.
Like there's a lot of good. It's just monitoring that so it doesn't get out of control.
Yep.
But I think it's it does. It helps people who struggle and they get employable and they are able to kind of be able to manage their daily lives without overdosing and doing all that kind of crazy shit that we were doing before, putting needles in our arms, dirty
Being in
needles and
dangerous
stuff like that.
places, dangerous people.
Yeah, 100%.
Totally. So let's start moving towards Northpoint.
Okay. So here, because I went to Northpoint straight from my harm reduction zone.
Okay.
Like, I'm a people pleaser, and where I was at that point with my harm reduction was like, I'm fooling all of my counselors and everybody in my life that like everything's great.
Yep.
Meanwhile, inside and at home, like, my life's a fucking wreck.
Yep.
Like, I hit this
Miserable.
bottom. that I didn't see coming, right? Like, my wife is kicking me out of my house without really kicking me out. She's telling me that, like, we're done.
Yep.
And there's no more hope for us. And no matter how bad I want recovery, she doesn't have faith anymore that I can do it. And, like, that was that pivotal point in my life right there where I was like, oh my God, like, I need some fucking help. Like, here I am again, like, losing all of my shit, but I'm supposed to be in recovery. And here I'm losing everything because of alcohol now. Because
so you started drinking.
oh
during
yeah,
all
drinking
that.
every day because, like, I didn't have to go look for drugs anymore.
Yeah.
Like, I automatically had them.
I'm getting my fix.
I don't
and
have to
like,
stay not drinking because I got to drive.
Yeah.
And so it just became this thing every day. I just getting as plastered as I can, as quick as I can.
Yep.
And so after my wife had that discussion with me of totally losing faith in me, I picked up the phone and I called Zach at Northpoint. And there it was, right? Like,
Shout out to Zach.
shout out to Zach, right?
Love you,
Like,
brother.
I talked to him every day for like 3 weeks because I'm not ready to come to treatment.
Yeah.
Like, I got to sort out some shit. Like, I got to sort out my finances. Like, I got to talk to my employer. Like, what do you mean you can get me in right now? Like, hold up. Like
I was just calling to get some information.
Like, but, like, he coddled me like this little baby that I was at this time, right? And, like, he made me feel like that, like, I was worth it. Like, for once I heard someone tell me their story and how they got through it and that I was able to do it too. And that was different than any doctor or any family member ever telling me that this is what I had to do to stay alive, because I really didn't fucking care. Yeah. Like, I had heart problems, kidney problems, liver problems at this point, and I didn't care. Like, I wanted to die, and it didn't matter. So I took a leap of faith because someone told me where they were and how they got through it, that maybe I could do it too.
And you related to it.
Yeah, and that was that relatable experience that I had longed for so long but never found.
Yep.
And it was through that phone call, right? Like, that was my journey to recovery.
Yeah.
And so I got on a plane and went to Northpoint, and and then when I get there, they're like, whoa, dude, like, you're on a pretty high dose of methadone. Like,
yeah.
This is going to be fucking rough for you. And I'm like, you tell me after I fly all the way over here, this is going to be fucking rough? Like, thanks, dude.
Brutal.
Fuck you, Zach. Fuck you.
Zach didn't tell me that part.
Yeah. Like, he just told me that, like, people had been there and, like, you could get through it too. And like, he's seen people withdraw from a higher number. And I was like, all right, cool. Like, I'm not so bad. This ain't going to be that bad. Like, maybe I could do it.
How bad was it?
You know, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Okay.
But it was not fucking pleasurable.
Okay.
Like, I wasn't puking and shitting myself like I thought I would be from every other time I had tried to withdraw.
Yep.
So, but it was longer lasting than I
yeah.
ever wanted to imagine.
The Half-Life, all that stuff is
Yeah,
brutal.
like, it was pretty bad. Like, even at the end when I got put on Vivitrol, it threw me back into withdrawal.
Yeah.
And, like, I
2
had
or
been
3
there
days,
for
yeah.
28, 24 days at the time, and they put me on and it threw me into withdrawal.
Yep.
So, like, my withdrawal process was long
Yeah.
and drawn out.
Yeah.
It's miserable. Who was your counselor when you were there?
Oh,
Only me.
I don't even remember. It was a woman.
Claudette?
No. It was the only woman counselor at the time.
I don't know who was there.
She wasn't in addiction.
No,
She did a lot of...
Debbie?
Debbie. Yeah, it was
Debbie.
Debbie. Yeah.
Shout out Alex behind the camera. I don't even remember.
Yeah, it was Debbie.
That was all before me.
Was I a tech there?
Yeah. You were a tech.
Yeah.
A night tech because you were still in school.
I remember. I was such an asshole about bedtime. So if I couldn't clock out until everybody went to bed. So I'd be like, 10:59, 11, time to go to bed.
I do remember that, like, it would be cool, like, if you were on Cooper's good side and, like, you did all your shit, like, you could get Cooper to do a backflip. And, like, it was fucking awesome. Like, Cooper would show off.
Cooper can't do that anymore.
I'm looking old and retired now. That's right, dog.
He's going
I
into
use that.
he's
I
going
use that
into
to be people
dad
that-
bod status.
Okay, so we kind of talked about what you expected. What else kind of did you expect to get out of Northpoint? What met those expectations? What did you not expect? Surprises? And then what went well while you were there, man? And then we'll I want to get into a little bit of what life's been like since you'd graduated.
I think overwhelmingly the peer support is what I didn't realize that I needed in my life. Like I needed to be loved and loved for who I was and where I was, and that's what I got through peer support. I got this sense of belonging that like I didn't think was possible.
Is that something that, like, after all the years of use and trying to be accepted by like money and all that stuff, like you finally got the genuine self? It was just like, this is what I'm accepted just for me.
Yeah.
Is that what you got?
Yeah, just years of anxiety, right? Like I struggle with my speech and my self-acceptance and trying to please other people, and people aren't going to like me. I'm not lovable. Like I'm going to say the wrong thing. So I'm just going to sit in the back and not say anything.
Yeah.
And recovery went good for a while, right? Like I didn't have all these fears right away, right? Like it was so foreign to me, feeling all these new feelings of all these people around me and being involved, and that like I didn't have anxiety at first, right? Like my speech didn't bother me. Like it took a little bit of clean time for all of that anxiety to come back, and when it came back worse than before, because I had no tools to deal with it, and every coping mechanism that I ever had in life was drugs or alcohol, and now I'm not doing those.
Yeah.
So
now
like
what
I was
the
a
fuck?
fucking shit show for a while, and like I would.
So
go
how
to
long
meetings.
into recovery was that? Like 6 months, 90 days, a year,
30 days.
It was like a year and a half.
year and a half before before it like started to hit you?
Between a year and at
Somewhere
like
in
6 months, it like started to like I could acknowledge like, oh my God, this is a problem. Like I have anxiety, and at that time, what I was doing was I would go to really small meetings, and then I was forced to share. Right, like I started taking service positions, and I started getting involved in things that like made me speak, made me get out there, because that's what I needed. Because every time that I let this fear build in me, if I didn't acknowledge that it was there and overcome that, it would build, and it would take me down, and it would take me out. And so that's what I had to do, and that's what I continue to do.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, you can say that about anything, right?
Yeah.
Not just anxiety about speaking, but anxiety about any life things that come up.
Yeah.
That's really good habit to build in yourself for sure.
Yeah.
Cool. So what things, when you left Northpoint, you came back to Washington, what things like helped recovery, hindered recovery? What things do you think were necessary? That kind of stuff.
I think it was definitely necessary for me to follow my treatment plan. Like I didn't want to at all, but I did, right? Like I went to a meeting that day. Like that was the most crucial thing for me. Like I just have to go to a meeting today, right? Like, and I went to a meeting every day. For at least 90 days. Like I just like I didn't know what to do, and I didn't know how to do this, but all I knew was that if I went to a meeting, like I felt better that day, and like I would go to bed not under the influence that night. And so that's what I did. And then, like I said, like I found a really small home group that met on the weekends, where like I could go to like a 7 a.m. meeting, and there was like 4 people in the meeting, but it forced me to share every weekend. It got me in the community, and it also, I wasn't taking up my family's time all the time for my recovery.
Yeah.
Like that was a big thing. Like I didn't understand why my family was irritated or angry with me for putting my recovery first and doing all of this recovery stuff. And I'd be like, well, why are you mad at me for this? You wanted me to do this. You told me I had to do this. Like, I don't understand.
Yeah.
And what it took was someone to point out to me that just because I'm doing all these good things and it's for the right reasons, to them, it still feels like abandonment. Right? That I'm not there, and all they see is me leaving again.
Yeah.
And so I started getting my family involved because I'm not giving up on my recovery, and my family was part of my fall, so I'm gonna make them part of my uprising.
Yeah, cool. That's perfect. So what's life like now, dude? I keep going to like ask these questions, but he just answers them answering like the first one I asked. He answers 3 more that I had lined up. I'm like, fuck. So yeah, just talk about what life's like now, and then we'll take us out of here.
Life is a lot different than I ever expected. Right? Like I've talked about my speech a little bit here, but like that's that pivotal thing in my recovery. That was my turning point.
Yeah.
Right? Was being open and accepting. I was angry with my higher power that I had this. I didn't understand how to turn it over, and that was the turning point. Was coming to surrender to the fact that I had it, and what it took was some outside help.
Yeah.
And like I have a huge support group now because of it, right? Like I have multiple service positions. It's like I can't, like, people are like, hey, get involved, like, can you do this? And I'm like, no, yes, I can do it. And like it's gotten me in trouble at times because like I'll take a service position and then I'll go home and I'll tell my wife and she'll be like, you did it again. Like, why wouldn't you talk to me about this? Like, why would you do that? I'm like, shit, I did it again. But so I have a step study group that I go to on Mondays that we go to every other week. I have a home group on Tuesdays. On Wednesdays is a family night, like guaranteed. Thursdays is another step study group because apparently I have to have two now. But that's just where I'm at, and like that's okay for right now. Like I'm juggling two different step study groups, and like it's kind of strange, but like if it becomes a problem, then I'll see which one I need to eliminate.
Yeah.
But I've already worked all 12 steps once, so going through it this time, like it seems to be a little bit easier to balance both. Like I don't think I could do it my first time through trying to balance two. Like I would not recommend that.
Yeah.
And then on Fridays I have a home group that I found that I just love. That like we go out every Friday night, like after the meeting.
Nice.
And like we invite everyone. Like there's times where we get like 50 people to go out and eat after the meeting. And luckily I live in an area where it's pretty easy to find a place
Restaurant that'll take 50 people.
That'll open up their banquet room and will take us, and there's a whole chunk of them right by the mall. So
Nice.
we just all go out to eat after every meeting on
Awesome.
Fridays.
That's cool.
And like that's the peer support that I need. And my weekends are I try to do family time, but it seems like it's a lot of recovery. Like that's what we end up doing. I do a lot of advocacy work. My wife is involved with advocacy. I'm part of a coalition which promotes recovery in the community, and my wife is part of that too, and
Nice.
she's actually the chair, and so we're on leadership, and like that takes up a lot of our time. We do a lot of advocating for people that haven't found recovery yet. I advocate for harm reduction and medication assisted treatments because they do work, and it's not for everyone, and but overwhelmingly they do work. Like trying to force someone into treatment and telling them they have to go isn't always the option. Yeah. Like you got to be willing to want recovery, and sometimes if I can just offer you drugs and get you stable and get you in a better mental health, then promote some recovery, then maybe I can steer you along, right?
Yeah.
And you're not harming your community by doing that.
100%.
So
100%.
that's kind of my day to day, and I go to work, and I don't know how I balance it all, but
It works. It works.
It's probably more chaotic when I think about it in that aspect of like my schedule, because I actually have a schedule now. It's not just like whatever's going on, and then I'm gonna place this and this
chaos.
and this in front of it,
Yeah.
because like I gotta meet this guy before I can do anything else, and I'm gonna be late to everything you think I need to do.
Yeah, you use the calendar in your
Yeah.
phone.
I have to use my calendar.
Yeah.
Right. And like I sponsor people too. Like that's a big thing.
Oh, yeah.
That was huge. Like I didn't think I ever wanted to sponsor people, and then I don't even know how many sponsors I have. I think like 5 or 6 right now. But not all of them work the program.
I was gonna say, yeah. Is it actually people that are doing it, or
There's a few.
Yeah, totally.
Right. And then
Usually have 2 out of 5 are actually doing the work.
there's a couple that are coming in and out, in and out, in and out, and like that's
Answer the phone, and that's all you can do.
Yeah. It's hard seeing people go back out. Like that's the hardest thing, I think. Like,
Oh yeah, working trust us. We get that one.
Yeah.
One for sure. Yeah. All right. Well, John, Anything you want to say? I know it was the first time you met Brandon.
Yeah, man. You know, it was really cool hearing your story, brother. I know we kind of just missed each other when I started. So, yeah, that's awesome.
Cool. All right, man. Well, if there's anything you want to say to like somebody out there that might be struggling, that might be thinking about going to treatment, might be thinking about getting into the treatment industry, or even have a family member that's struggling right now, just kind of last words.
Reach out for help. There's so much recovery support group and peer support out there. Like just when you think your situation doesn't fit the mold, like even if we don't have that, like let's fucking build one. Mm-hmm. Like we are some powerful people. Like let's make this happen. And so that's where I'm at.
Love it. All right, guys, you heard it from Brandon. Make sure you reach out, get some help. Make sure you hit that like button, that subscribe button, that share button. Help us get Brandon's story out there. Brandon is going to be joining us for another episode, doing a clinical episode, talking about some of the state of addiction treatment, the opioid epidemic, things like that. We're looking forward to that. But guys, thanks for joining us. This has been No Way But North, where we talk about the miracles of recovery, tools used to achieve.
Peace.
Thanks.
If you or a loved one are struggling with addiction, please call 208-999-4064. The views and opinions expressed in No Way But North do not reflect those of Northpoint Recovery or any other institution or organization.